Hey there, welcome to the HerBusiness Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of women entrepreneurs who are making a mark. Now, this week we have a great episode for you and another fabulous interview with an inspiring woman business owner. We are talking about the slow growth strategy and how incremental shifts in your business can lead to extraordinary long-term success. And my guest went from selling her products at the markets to having clients worldwide and wholesalers all over the country, holding the same vision in mind the whole time over a couple of decades. Now, she found a way to daydream about what her life could be, and then she strategized how to make it happen. And in this interview, we discover how she merges a love for numbers with that creative spirit that started it all for her, because you can have both in your business. She believes that balance isn't just possible between creativity and numbers, but she says it's essential for finding success as a business owner. She perfectly says, the heart of success lies in the balance between creativity and analytics. One dreams, the other validates. So let's dive in. My guest is Leanne Haining of Urban Rituelle, a business renowned for its ethos of passion, kindness, care, and unparalleled quality. I love their products. Did I say that already? You'll probably hear me say it one or two times more. They've been recognised for winning the Australian Small Business Champions Award and 2 categories in the International Beauty Shortlist Awards. And she thrives on creativity, determination, and continuous growth. Let's head over to my chat with Leanne and learn how she implemented small changes to her business over a long period of time to create unbelievable long-term success. Hey Leanne, so great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to dive into your story. You've grown a wonderfully successful business that I fell in love with when I first was given a gift of one of your beautiful hand creams. I will probably talk more about that later. But for now, I want to go back a little while to you traveling through Europe with your husband, Scott, and returning to start an amazing business. What happened during those travels that inspired Urban Rituelle?
Well, I met Scott traveling in Turkey and about 30 years ago now. And I think the biggest thing that inspired us about starting a business when we were traveling was that we were fearless. I was thinking about what it was, and there was no boundaries, no worry about what anyone thought of you. You were really fearless, and you were traveling as well in places that you didn't know. So that just became the new normal for us, was just to go to places we didn't know with no expectation of what would happen in those places. So the fearlessness, the no boundaries, and the no fitting into boxes. And I think the other thing that I thought about in hindsight was the time that we had. So because we had so much time, there was time to plan, to daydream, to fantasize about all the things that we might do in the future. And I think when you're leading a really busy life, that can actually be taken away from you. So I think they were the 2 things that enabled us, or sort of set the train in place for creating our business.
I really love that you said that, because I find even now when I'm away from my usual environment, that's when my best ideas come. It's not when I'm in the grind of the day-to-day. So similarly, I'm in business with my partner, PJ, and anytime we're traveling, something is birthed, some new fantastic idea or insight comes in. Now, you came from interesting backgrounds, visual merchandising, and were you both in visual merchandising?
No, my background was visual merchandising. So I, way back in the day, did a TAFE course in visual merchandising because I always loved the way things looked. That was something that, so it was like, do I go into design? I actually liked hairdressing as an option as well, but it was always visual. And so and then I worked with Just Jeans, which was incredible. So I had an incredible opportunity and left that business as their state visual merchandiser. I then worked at Red Earth. So you can see the transition from fashion into that body care. Yes. And then went traveling overseas. And Scott's background, when he was, because he did a lot of traveling and went to university, but his background was more in sales and more corporate. So he's a real operations thinker.
What a great duo. What great skills to bring together. And I think, if we're lucky enough to have a business partner that we can work with, which you and I have, but just having someone else around you that has complementary skills, whether it's a key team member, whether it's peers, whether it's advisors, I think is so important. You started at markets, from what I believe, and now you have this amazing e-commerce and wholesale business. What are some of the key factors in going from that? Here we are, we're selling a beautiful, I imagine, all handmade things at the markets to thinking, you know what, we're going to take this thing online and we're going to have a wholesale business? How'd you build that business model?
I think the biggest thing is our personality traits, to be honest. It was our personality traits. We're lucky that we are so compatible. Because we have quite different skill sets, and being compatible is so vital. So that was a really big part of our success. But the adaptability, the resilience, you being able to pick yourself up when things don't go wrong and not throw in the towel. And also the ability to innovate. So we've gone from literally one market stall, a little table with soaps on it and bath bombs and bubble baths with dewberry scent, to the business that we have now, which is very sophisticated with elegant packaging. And of course, now we've got, we're in the digital space and, we're doing e-commerce. So yeah, I would say resilience, adaptability, innovation, and having a good partner.
But what about the business model? What had you decide, oh no, we're not going to open up stores, we're going to do e-commerce and we're going to have wholesalers? Was there a strategic thinking behind that?
Okay, so my background is retail. When I say my background, my dad's background he was a retailer. So I just grew up in retail. So when I started doing the markets, that made sense to me. The retail thing made sense. And actually I had the blessing of my dad, who could see what we were doing with our product and our soaps. And he said to me, I think you could sell this to other businesses. And so he saw something, being a retailer himself, and obviously the maturity level that was different than what I had. Yes. And when we were at the market in Glebe, we had a wonderful lady who came along, and she had a business in Katoomba. And she came past our little market stall and she said, I love what you do. Could I take this to my store in Katoomba? So that was really what started that idea that we could sell to other retailers as, a direct to business. And look, it was very, we were very inexperienced. We were just bumbling our way through it. But really that was what happened, why we didn't go into bricks and mortar retail, but went into wholesaling first. And so we were wholesalers for about 15 years before we went into e-commerce retail.
And then were you as big on e-commerce before the pandemic as you are now? Were you already well established?
We were so lucky we were well established. So I had, we were exporting into the US in around 2006, 2007, 2008. So when I was over there, I learned a lot very quickly because we had a distribution partner over there, and obviously they were very advanced and we were young and they were experienced. So I learned a lot from that. I then came back and I started to see what was happening around that time with e-commerce. It was just starting to happen in the Australian market. But I took it really slowly because I didn't want to upset the direct to business that we had. So I took it slowly and made it more of if we could have a product that we could send to someone that couldn't get it in one of our retail partners. So it was more about convenience for our customers than about taking it on as a really big part of revenue for the business. But in saying that, we just kept evolving and we just kept getting the e-commerce better and better. We got better e-commerce platforms and I just kept learning. So when the pandemic happened, we were well and truly set up as e-commerce retailers, but it was 5% of revenue maybe, and it went up to being about 50% of revenue. But we were set up. I know, we were set up. We were ready to go. So when the wholesale tap turned off, the e-commerce tap turned on the same day.
I love that. And so you didn't have all your eggs in one basket. And that is such a powerful thing in hindsight. You may not have known, but you'd already made a start. You'd already innovated. You'd taken on what you were probably seeing happening in your industry anyway. And your timing was obviously perfect. Now, you have already said you're very visual. You create beautiful things. That's part of your background. How do you manage that side of your personality with the side that has to be a leader, that is running a business that needs to work financially and have team members that are showing up and participating in the business? Like, how do you balance the creative with the operational?
Well, luckily, that's how my head works. I just think it's one of the things that I'm very lucky. I remember when I very first learned how to use MyOb back in 1999, and my accountant said to me, "You are an anomaly. You are quite odd because you love the creative, but you love the numbers." And that was true. And I really do. My favorite space is Excel outside
is
of the
that right?
I love it. That's I would put everything into Excel. So that's just my personality type. I love creative, but I love numbers and I love money and I love crunching numbers and stats and percentages. So It's quite a natural thing for me, and I know they're my two favourite things to do in the business: creating product, creating fragrance, packaging design, and then numbers, stats, percentages, growth, average order values. So they're the two things. And I also like people. So I like leading a team. I like being able to share learnings that I have. So if I go to seminars or conferences, I like to bring that back and share as much as I can with our team. And I like creating a family team. So that, to me, again, it's just quite natural and normal for me to do that. And that's why we've kept our business more family and boutique, because that's the space that I'm comfortable in. I'm definitely not a corporate leader. I'm not I don't like big teams. I find that's not my favourite place. But I love that family team. And as I said, I love the numbers and I love the creativity.
I love that. We're going to circle back to numbers a little bit because it's such an important topic for women business owners. But I want to first talk about marketing, particularly how you've leveraged different marketing platforms to grow your online presence and your sales. Could you give us some tips there?
So we're really diving into digital marketing. That's something that we're really jumping in full-heartedly into, and I'm working with people to help us with that as well, because it is a very complex space. But I sort of started to dive into that digital marketing world about 10 years ago. So what we do with our business, we have EDMs that we send out to both our B2B customers and also our direct-to-consumer customers.
So just for everyone listening, an EDM is an electronic direct mails, which means it's email marketing, which we love. Yeah.
Which has been so important for us. So we have two very distinct customer bases, and we've built those lists up over time. So every time we go to a trade fair, we obviously grow our list. Every time we have an online sale and online, we're always growing our list. We're doing collaborations to grow our lists. So that's a really great way for us to communicate with our customers. As I said, we've also got a strong social strategy, our organic social strategy, which I run myself. So I do all of the social media. I just find it's more authentic. It comes from the heart, and people then can really see what's going on in the business. So I manage that, and I manage it in a way that it speaks to both direct-to-consumer and our business retail partners. And then we write blogs, and then we also have a paid digital strategy where we're building our brand presence with the with outsourced help to help us in that space. Because that's the thing. Funny, I love the numbers, but that thing escapes me a bit. It's very complex.
I want to talk a little more about email marketing because I'm a huge fan, and I get, I don't know, maybe 100 emails a day from different e-commerce providers. I've obviously signed up to a lot of things. I want to talk about email marketing because I believe it's undervalued by most small business owners as a way to grow revenue. And I don't believe that it's only for e-commerce store owners. Tell us about your email marketing strategy. How frequent? Is it all about offers, or do you have valuable content that is not about buy my thing? How do you approach your email strategy?
Sure. With our direct to consumer, for one, because they're a little bit different. Same overall umbrella approach, but with our direct to consumer, what we like to do is engage and entertain. That's really important for us. So we don't want to be selling at people. It's about engaging, entertaining, and also building community with information that our readers, our customers are actually looking for. So we might have features on ingredients. We might share reviews from our community. We might talk about what is a team favourite, and obviously things like trade fairs. Even the direct-to-consumer, they love that information. So the behind-the-scenes, staff favourites. So really about engaging, entertaining and inspiring. And then the offer is, 20, 10, 15, 20% of that, depending on the season. And then it's a similar approach with direct to business. Again, we don't want to sell at people, but we want to help them in their business. So there might be visual merchandising tips, again, ingredient information, and what other people what's doing well for other stores. So again, just things where we can help people is really the approach that we take with our EDM. So making sure that people would actually want to read it.
Right. And how frequently are you emailing?
So with our direct-to-consumer, every 5 to 7 days, right. And with our to business B2B, 2 to 3 times a month.
2 to 3 times a month. Great. I love that frequency. You mentioned that you love people, and I know you have a team. Just before we went live, you were telling me about the recent trade fair that you and your team were at, and you had a very successful time winning the Best Stand Award. Tell me, how do you foster a culture within your business that supports innovation and teamwork?
Open communication is a really big part of our culture, and also kindness. So those two things. So kindness is probably the first thing. We really value kindness, and we have a tagline in our business that we create rituals that make people feel good. And so we take that into our team. So I always say that that's how we need to act together. We need to create rituals that make people feel good by being kind, by listening, and having open communication. And we do that by having morning huddles. So every day we have a morning huddle at 10:30, and we just get together and we look each other in the eye. We talk to each other about what we're working on, maybe some wins, or maybe something you might need some guidance with, or that you might be stuck with, or something that's overwhelming. So we all know where everyone's starting from in the day. And then we also have a bi-weekly team meeting where everyone in the business comes together. That's our manufacturing team, our production team, and our sales admin team. We all do that every 2 weeks.
I can't stress the importance of that frequency of communication with your team. We do the daily huddle, and that came out of, there was a period before the pandemic, PJ and I went to New York for 10 weeks, and we thought, how are we going to balance this time zone? We had always had a weekly meeting, but we started the daily huddles, and it's been such a game changer for the reasons you said. We get to see each other, we get to see what our priorities are for the day, we get to see where there might be a bottleneck or where someone's waiting on us, and it's so important. And then you have the bigger team meeting, where everyone comes along. I absolutely love that.
And we actually have a little pad as well for our huddle. So a team
What's pad.
Like a little notepad.
Oh.
And it's printed out with the Urban Rituelle logo, and it tells us the purpose of the huddle. So it reminds you what the purpose of the huddle is, and then you've got your top 3 things, top 3 priorities, and the actions from the huddle, and that everyone has that. So we stick to that. We don't get carried away and go off topic.
What a great idea. What a great idea. And that's something everyone can implement, whether you have a notepad or whether you just have a sheet that keeps you on track. Because I remember someone saying to me, but how can you keep it to 15 minutes? I said, well, because we're not talking about everything. We're talking about these specific things. So good. So there's a hot tip for you to meet regularly with your team and really prioritize what's important. Now, you have a mantra, Leanne, and I'm going to read it out so I don't get it wrong. It's the people who are willing to take action and move forward are the ones who reap the rewards. How do you incorporate this philosophy into the leadership and decision-making in your business?
Scott and I are get things done kind of people. That's just who we are, and that's something that I'm always like, let's get things done. One of the we're also known in our industry, funnily I'm thinking of it, as urgent ritual, and that might tell you a little bit about
urgent
ritual. That might tell you a little bit about who we are. So our suppliers have been known to say, oh, it's urgent ritual again. And that usually comes from that if I have an idea or we want something done, I want it done now. And I can't deal when people say, oh, that's not possible now, I can't do it now, I have to we need to do it now because it's a really good idea. And so that's a little bit of urgent ritual. A really good example is just setting up at the trade fair last week, and we were putting the flowers on the stand, last minute finishing touches. And I was talking to my neighbour across the road, and she said, do you think it's too late? Maybe we could organise someone to come in and do some video content. And I was like, that's a great idea. You're talking to the right person. Let's make it happen. So that's exactly what I did. I knew a couple of people, and I also spoke to Red Gifters. So on Sunday, we had 2 videographers that came in. And we also coincidentally then won the best stand. So I had all these videographers all teed up, and they came in and they interviewed myself. They did video of the stand. We spoke about the 25 years. We spoke about the Best Stand Award. And we also spoke about a collaboration that I'm going to be doing with my neighbour at Ginger Lily. And so all of those things happened from a very late Friday afternoon conversation with high vis and stand shoes on. So I think that's one. Those who get things done reap the rewards. And another example would be that we're in America where we're growing the business by exporting. So that was a very big strategy for us because everyone wanted Australian-made product. It was around that 2006 leading to the GFC. And we were there during the GFC. So we pulled out. got everything back into Australia. And then what we thought is, okay, so what will we do now? Export, the GSCs all sort of shutting down. So that was when we decided to start our manufacturing in-house with our candles and our home fragrance diffusers. So we put in a mezzanine, we got the machinery, we learned how to do it, and now that part of the business makes up 60% of our revenue, and we have full control because in our office, in our warehouse. And again, that was something where we just went in and did it, and that's where Scott's strengths are. He's very good in the machinery and the operations, and we just made it happen. And that's probably a good example of. I've got another good example. We had a candidate come. I'm recruiting at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I had a candidate where I'd offered them the position on Friday. I offered them position, and then on Friday afternoon they declined. I was very sad. So I thought about it all weekend, and then on Sunday afternoon, I put it up on our socials, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, for personal and business. And then this morning, my HR person sent me a message saying, the universe has been very kind to you. We've just got the most perfect applicant, and I'm meeting that applicant at 3:00 today. So
I love it.
And there's just sort of short and long-term examples of.
And they're very specific examples that could create amazing breakthroughs in your business just by taking that mantra of the people who are willing to take action and move forward are the one who reap the rewards. Can be deliberating and spinning our wheels for the longest time, but it's not until we actually put our hat in the ring, we actually take that first action, that anything happens, right? The rest is just kind of buying time. I absolutely love those examples. This is the Business Growth Summit for Women Entrepreneurs. I love to not only hear women's stories, but also to share some of the strategies that you're using to grow your own business. Now, you said you love numbers. You said you're a big fan of Excel. How do you approach the challenges that come with pricing and cost control and investing in your growth? And the reason I ask this, Leanne, is that unfortunately I still find so many women avoid the money conversation. They don't get deep into their numbers. So take us behind your thinking of how you approach things like pricing, cost control, investment in growth, thinking about money as it relates to your business growth.
Well, as I mentioned before, luckily I love numbers and I love money. It's actually one of the spaces that I feel most happy in, and I always have. And so that makes me, because I love it, it makes it easy, I think you could say. But what I do, I analyze the market all the time. So I'm constantly looking at what our competitors are doing. It's always really important, and you see where you fit. And I'm a really big believer of not discounting. I think it devalues your brand, and I think you should be strong in your brand and what you do, and believe in your brand, and know that you bring something of value, whether it be your service or your product. And so I have a really strong belief in our brand, and I'm very adamant that we don't discount. But I do look at what our competitors are doing, and obviously looking at our costs. So every 6 months we do a deep dive analysis of our costs and make sure that because things just sneak up really, really slowly, particularly being a manufacturer. We don't have a buy price in because we're buying in boxes, lotion, labels, bottles, fragrance, raw ingredients. And so they can all sneak up very slowly, and you have to watch that. So every 6 months we have beautiful costing spreadsheets all set out in Excel. My inventory manager plugs in all the details if there's ever any changes. We can look at the percentage of gross margin, and then we can look at that compared to our competitors. So we do that every 6 months. So that's how we look at our pricing and our costings. And I obviously want to put out a product that's great value, but as I said, I'm very aware of the high quality product that we make, and I will not have that race to the bottom. I've watched other people do it, and there's one product in particular that we have let go of in our range because others were in a race to the bottom, and I made a decision that after having this product for 24 years, which is the product that we started at the markets with, that it was no longer financially viable to do that product anymore because there was no margin in that product. So that was a decision that I made based on, I was like, this is not making us money, and we can't put out a product that's a break-even product, even though it's the product we've had for 24 years and I love it, and people were devastated, but we are running a business. And as far as growth, I would say my strategy with growth is probably slower than most, insofar as I've got a very slow, stable, sustainable growth style, and I'm not one of those big, fast players. And so in some ways I've watched other businesses grow much faster than we have, but I can only go with what my instincts tell me to do and what makes me feel comfortable. And everyone's got a different, investment strategy or a different growth strategy. So ours is slow, stable, and sustainable, but it has meant that we're in business 25 years later and we're very profitable, and we can, invest in our team and our people and our product.
Right. And I so admire that. One, it takes a lot of grit to be in business for that many years, but to just keep tweaking and innovating. And I'm sure there've been points, like you said, where it was 5% and then, e-commerce is 50%. You had these big 10x growth periods in the business, but most of the time you're making incremental changes and going, like you said, with your feeling about how to grow and stay in your lane. Like you're watching the competitors and what they're doing, but you still have your own part. I love that. I know you've got a business partner. You've talked to us about Scott. But I want to know what other support you've had in your business. So have you been part of either, business groups or peer accountability groups or advisory boards, or have you had other people around you who you feel have had an impact on your business over the last 25 years? And if so, could you tell us about them?
I was very lucky, as I mentioned before, that my father had his own business. So people often say, what made you go into business? So obviously there's the travel side that we spoke about early on. But I think I was very lucky because to me, I grew up in a household that was family business. So that actually seemed very natural and very normal. So in the very early, or when I say the very early, in the first half of our business life, the first 10, 15 years, I was very lucky to have the mentorship of my father. He didn't work in the business, but he was certainly a great sounding board, and obviously all that experience of running retail stores and the things that he could see. And then that changed, obviously, as he got older. And then I lost my dad 2 years ago. But early on, my dad was an incredible ambassador for our brand and mentor for both Scott and I. And he would push us as well. He'd push us all the time. Is that really good enough? Have you done that to your best ability? So that was, I was very lucky in that way. And then I did join the Business Chicks group, and that was fantastic. I've met so many incredible women through that group, and I was always grateful for Emma for that opportunity. And then I also joined a smaller group within Business Chicks, which was called Power Players. And that to me has been, I'm so grateful for the women in that group, because we're all very different, but we all mentor each other, we support each other, and we guide each other from our own experiences without giving advice. And we're just a sounding board. So that has been just so vital, because I didn't have many other people around me who had their own businesses. So that was a fantastic group. And then I also have another group that I'm involved in where we meet on Zoom monthly. And again, those women are all over Australia, and we do the same thing. We just share wins, ask for help if we need it, and just share experiences. So those things have been really instrumental to my growth and leadership, because if I didn't have that, I'm essentially meeting with my team all the time and my family, but it's those women that have really guided me and pushed me to be better and to see things outside my own lane.
Yes, so good and so important to have that sounding board, and an objective sounding board. Like they care enough about you to reflect back to you anything they don't think supports you, but they're also there when you need, a shoulder to cry on, I expect.
Yes, absolutely. And when things aren't going well, and it really does, it can just give you that lift to just jump back on and also know that you're not alone. And that's been very, very helpful. I'm very grateful to all of those women.
Thank you. Just before I ask you what an ideal day looks like for you when you are doing what you love in your business, give us an insight into what some of the next big steps, I know they might be slow moving, but next steps for Urban Rituelle.
The next big steps for Urban Rituelle is definitely in the hospitality industry. It's something that we have been, and it's very exciting. So we've noticed after the last 2 years that there's a lot of small businesses in that space, whereas previously would have been hotels, and hotels we would have conversations with, but you're talking to big hotel international brands, and they're bringing product in out of China. and it was just not possible for us to meet any of the costing needs that they had. But once we saw Airbnb and small business owners going to the hospitality space, then they were wanting to create extraordinary experiences, and those small owner-occupiers, owner businesses were coming to us and asking us for products to put into their small hotel, their boutique hotel, their Airbnb. So that just opened up for us the possibility of we can supply direct to consumer, we can supply to retail, but we can also supply into hospitality. So when we did that, we developed a shampoo and conditioner, which was something
very good.
Because that was what we were hearing from those customers. Oh, we love what you do here, but we definitely need a shampoo and conditioner. So now we have that full offering, and we now also have a partner who has 30 years experience in that space, and they only talk to hospitality. So we've partnered with them. So that's very exciting. We've also got great growth in the Asian export market. We have a partner with our Japanese distributors that's 18 years, and we also have a new partnership with partners in Southeast Asia, and that's a new partnership, but that's growing really well as well. So export and hospitality would be the two new markets, but of course e-commerce, my goal is to have our revenue from e-commerce be 20% of total business revenue. So I'm really personally, that's my drive, is the e-commerce business.
I want to ask you about partnerships. This is unplanned content, people, because I heard you say you've got multiple partners. I think that's, again, an underutilized opportunity for so many of us. How do you think about strategic partnerships, and how do you make that first approach?
We have partnerships with, as I said, our export businesses, but we also have partnerships within Australia with our sales team. So our sales team are independent sales agencies, so they're not staff. And so we probably developed that relationship, if you like, as partners, because these people are not part of our team. They run their own businesses. So we always had to work out how we could do business together successfully. And it was the word partnership that worked, because they've got their business, and it's very important with other principles that they are also representing. So partnerships are the two-way communication and a two-way street, and making sure that it's successful for both, and supporting our partners. Only yesterday I read a LinkedIn post from our distributors in Southeast Asia, and they were saying how supportive we are of them. And it said that we're supportive and patient. And I didn't realise that they thought that. So it was lovely to read that from our partners in Southeast Asia. And we go and visit our partners in Japan every 2 years. So that's another thing. So we make sure that we show them that their business to us is important. And we go on, and we're on the ground, and we're looking at the stores, and we're listening to their needs. I think that is really important for those partnerships.
We have a tagline at HerBusiness, which is do what you love every day. And what I'd love to know, Leanne, is what does an ideal day look like inside of your business where you think, I am doing what I love?
I had an ideal day on Friday, actually. I was barefoot. I was working from my home office. That's my ideal day. And I was writing content creation. That's what I love. I love writing content. So I was writing product descriptions for some new fragrances that we're bringing out. So what I love the most in the business is the creating of new products, new fragrances, new packaging. I love collaborating with our team on those things. I work with a designer she's part of our team, so she's a full-time designer. She's been in our team for 20 years. Our inventory manager has been with us 18 years. So working with those two girls, particularly on product development, fragrances, product packaging design, is what I love the most. And then, as I said, I love writing the fragrance descriptions. I sent down at about 6 o'clock on Friday night my latest product description, fragrance description. And my designer was like, oh, my God, I love it. So she's never smelt it, but I was able to convey to her through my writing what it was going to be like. And she was salivating and excited. So I love I love working with our team and coming up with ideas, problem solving. I do really like that. The other thing, as I mentioned, that I love diving into the numbers. So every day I look at the numbers. I look at our e-commerce numbers, I look at our average order value, I look at the number of session visits to the website, I look at conversion rate, and then I look at the stats of our wholesale, export and retail to make sure that all those numbers are where they should be. And then I also look at each state in Australia as well. So I know every one of those numbers and where each of those should be. So I love that. And the other thing I love is reading fan mail and reviews. When someone says something beautiful about your product, I love that. That always gives me a crazy buzz.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
I absolutely loved talking with you. And what I've also loved are the questions that made me think about things in the business that I hadn't really thought about for some time. So it's always great to sort of cast your mind back and think about why you do what you do and why you love the product and why you love the industry that you're in. So, thank you for the opportunity.
I love what Leanne said, and I so enjoyed our conversation. We've stayed connected since then. We've seen each other at a mutual friend's birthday and all the good things. Now, she really embodies what balance can look like in business, something I think we all aspire to. And her slow growth strategy and intentional time for creativity have been pillars of her business growth over time. But at the same time, we saw that the profits have been undeniable. And I really love what she said about pricing and resisting the race to the bottom. And this can often come from a fear that our competitors are going to beat us because they're charging less. And I love how she sidelined a product because it just didn't make sense. And she said, resisting the race to the bottom prioritizes your brand worth over immediate sales and can foster sustainable growth. True value, she says, lies not in discounting, but in maintaining quality and profitability in your products and services. And I could not agree more. Actually, encouraging women to charge more, to look at not only their revenue, but also their profit is something we prioritize inside of the Her Business Network. Knowing your numbers, paying attention to the small details, determination, grit, being in it for the long term. So I don't know a better place to learn and grow these things than alongside a community of other women who are growing and scaling their businesses. Because as a woman growing and scaling your business, you need and want more than just random advice. You want a safe place where you can ask questions and get trusted answers from women who are going through the same thing. And right now, when you join the Her Business Network, you actually get our free, amazing small business finance course, which is perfect for the woman who wants to be in command of her money. It's valued at $2,000, but it's yours free when you join the Her Business Network. We're not doing this all the time. We are doing it right now. You can learn more at herbusinessnetwork.com. Now, if you have not tried Leanne's hand creams, they were my first connection with her products, and I have them all over the house. And I've given them as gifts, and I've given tons of them out. They're absolutely beautiful. You can find her over at urbanrituelle.com.au. Let me know what you buy. But what I've also done is I've put all of Leanne's contact information and details over at herbusiness.com/256. That's herbusiness.com/256. Now, join us in the next episode for more inspiring stories and lessons from successful female entrepreneurs. I love doing this show for you. I appreciate you listening and sharing the show with your friends. And I love it whenever I get a comment from you. So feel free to email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. Now, if you're a new listener to the show, be sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor and head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a rating or review? I appreciate and adore every single time someone actually takes the time to do that. Because the way podcasts grow is by ratings and reviews. It's just like when you're buying a good book, you're like, oh, what have other people said? It's the same with podcasts. And we want to share strategies like those shared here by Leanne with as many women as possible. Plus, I promise to give you a shout out, you and your business a shout out. So it's a little bit of a bribe, but head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a rating or review. And join me next time right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.